What up, everybody? Good to see you all. We will get started here in just a few minutes. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back, everybody, to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos, broadcasting to the world live from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we are diving into the Abby and Libby case, also known as the Delphi murders. Now, even though today's live stream will be focused in on the unspent bullet, I would like to open up the floor to discussion on the Anthony Shots UBO dark web snuff theory. Just some things I'd like to work out and hopefully help me put that theory aside. As a crew, the Sleuth crew, it has brought us to this theory, more than a few times, actually. Our own investigations have brought us to that. Through Keegan Kline, through covering other cases involving Rex Heuermann, recently the Norfleet case, things like that. So I just want to run some ideas by you guys and get your opinions on that before we dive into today's topic. Let's say hello to Linda Harders. If Richard Allen takes a plea deal, will we ever find out what happened to Abby and Libby? Maybe, maybe not. But another question is, do you really want to know? Good to see you, Christine Robbins, Ziggy, my guy Farmer, gifting memberships. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Olivia, too. Jody Lynn, Jari. Shout out to all my mods. Metal Mama Michelle, good to see you. True Crime Fangirl, Olivia too. She Warrior, how are you? Patricia Warner. Always good to see you, Jill Moser. Pitbull Mom, Beth Gonzalez, good to see you. Tam B, how are you? Welcome. Miss Dog Lover with the flex. Been very unwell. Sorry to hear that. Good to see that you're in the chat. I hope that you feel better. She Warrior with the flex. 8 months. Thank you for your support. Ziggy, 11-month flex. Hope you and your family are okay, Sleuth. Yeah, we had a little bit of a scare earlier. You guys may have noticed that the members only was pushed back and then canceled today. I will reschedule that. My daughter had a kidney infection. We thought maybe her appendix burst because of the intense pain and the fever that she was going through. But we went to the ER. They gave her an IV, ultrasound, ran her blood, and determined it was just nothing to really be too concerned about, and that antibiotics should do the trick. So we were relieved, and she's feeling much better. So thank you guys. Welcome in, Keith. Big Matthew, good to see you. Kiwi, how are you? Crimezilla, what's up? Big Mateo Funlass. Does anyone else wonder what stocks may have dropped badly that day if it was a trigger? What, the Delphi murders? If you got stock in the Bank of America, you might want to get those on out of there. Sheet Warrior, somewhere in Canada. All right. Carrie, welcome in. Jerry, always good to see you. Frank, good to see you. Oh, now I got you. Richard Allen claimed to be watching Stock Ticker. I mean, if we're going to fit the phone into this Anthony Schatz Yubo dark web snuff theory, it was simply there as a recording device, something to upload to send somewhere, upload. He most likely sent it to somebody using a burner phone, and they uploaded it to the web. Welcome in, Linda. Badass, good to see you. Shane, always a pleasure. Good to see you, Kiwi. Maureen, welcome in. CJK, Ziggy, Amelia, welcome. Okay. So the way this theory is laid out, it has a lot to do with the dueling leaks. You know, there were leaks early on that nobody talked about. We knew that there were crime scene photos out there that people were accessing. We had rumors coming from Garrett Kurtz that people that he knew personally were talking about seeing videos of the murders. We have the Shill Miller case, and we have multiple cases of people overseas using the Yubo app for what was called a snuff event. So it's not a snuff film, it's an actual event where people can click on a link and pay monies and actually request the type of torture that they want done. Now, this is all about what was the motivation for Richard Allen. And we know people who suffer from psychopathy, they don't need a motivation. All they need to be is stressed, and then they can use whatever excuse from there. But I want to lay this out for you guys, and then you can go ahead and give me your opinions. Good to see you, Melissa. Okay, so we've visited this theory quite a bit. It is a very dark and disturbing theory. But when you look at the totality of everything, the Stevenson case, the Daniel Norfleet case, Keegan Kline and his infatuation with the dark web, the back and forth between these online predators, show me what you got and I'll show you what I have. Him looking up the Sandy Hook victims, which is most likely something you can only do on the dark web, right? And not to mention the connection between Delphi and the Stevenson case, which was recently brought up on the Curious Contrarian channel. They're working on that case. It could explain why the killers were spending so much time and doing all this weird stuff at the crime scene, staging and moving of the bodies and things like that in both cases. And why are they tied? Why is the Stevenson case connected to Delphi? It could be because of the dark web. Maybe the Stevenson case was uploaded to the dark web, maybe by video, photographs, in the interest of investigators over there in Indiana, and the items that people had in their possession could simply be screenshots, from the dark web. You don't need a production crew. All you need is a camera and that evil streak, right? That darkness, that psychopathy. We look at Richard Allen's changes in 2016, his daughter leaving home, getting engaged, his brother-in-law passing away. We kind of look at that as the catalyst, but it could also be it could be the catalyst, but it also tells me that it could be a financial burden. A lot of these killers, that's their excuse. I was very stressed out. I had these financial burdens, inadequacies. I felt like I was losing control, losing power over the situation. And psychos, they need to have control constantly. Okay, so how do we tie that in with Anthony Shots? And how do we tie it in with Yubo? Well, the way I look at it is we know that Anthony Shots was trading information with other pedophiles. So he doesn't have to be involved in the luring and in the murder itself, simply to create a target. So he's putting Libby's profile on the dark highway, making it visible to a lot of sick people. And we know people like Rex Heuermann. He talks about he has an extreme interest in chubby 13-year-old girls, watching them being brutally attacked. He has a long list of internet searches involving specifically that, chubby 13-year-old girls. So that might be the only part that Keegan Kline played. He simply put her out there to where she could be targeted. So if Richard Allen chose to target her, I don't know if he's motivated by money, but he could have easily created a live snuff event. And also using Yubo at that very moment, uploaded it to the dark web. Now, early on in the case, we heard about crime scene photos or images of the girls. Garrett Kurtz talking about videos of the murders themselves. That sounds like something that could have been attainable on the dark web. Now, a case that jumps out to me is the Shill Miller case. So I want to go ahead and bring up the probable cause for that, because you guys might be thinking, well, that sounds very far-fetched. It's not. We've covered cases multiple times involving the Yubo app and people killing their victims live online. Shane says Stevenson case is ritualistic and a cult all day long. Well, I don't know if it's ritualistic. I mean, how do we know that somebody's not being directed? And that's why I wanted to talk about the Shill Miller case, because he convinced some people to commit murder, film it, not only film it, but upload it live and send those videos through Snapchat and through text while it's happening. So the killers don't have to be conducting a ritual, but whoever is directing it, whoever is making those requests, whoever is paying the money to have this done, it may be ritualistic for them. So if there are runes or symbols left at the Delphi crime scene on Libby's tree or using the sticks, it's because Richard Allen left them there. Maybe he knew why, maybe he didn't. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover. I don't believe in hell after life. The devil walks among us, disguised in everyday life. Yeah, I've said that before. You know, hell could be on earth. Hell could be the lack of God in your life and the turmoil that follows. Yeah, Badass. Nobody's calling her chubby, right? We all know that she was a bigger girl. We're not here to sugarcoat anything, and we're definitely not here to be disrespectful. And the last person we would ever disrespect is Libby. But we're looking at the facts here. Don't get lost in the sanctimonious BS. So let's take a look at the Darren Shill Miller. I think this might be, I don't know if it's a PCA or if it's the charging documents. It's titled here, Bail Memorandum. Viewer discretion is advised. All right. The state of Alaska, through Assistant District Attorney Patrick J. McKay Jr., files this bail memorandum. We'll skip all that. This matter involves the planning and premeditated murder of 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman. Here, let me pull this up. That's Cynthia there. She's also a larger person. She suffered from, I believe, she may be considered disabled or mentally handicapped. I'm not quite sure. I read a few articles about it stating that she could suffer from some disabilities. And we all know psychopathic killers target, you know, they want an easy target. They want zero difficulty. Planning the premeditated murder of 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman by a group of 5 young individuals after being catfished, right? We're all too familiar with that word, catfished. And solicited by a 21-year-old Darren Shill Miller of New Salisbury, Indiana. So we're basically looking at Keegan Kline's doppelganger. Based in interviews and a review of internet communications, investigators determined defendant Denali Bremer, aka Angel, met and began an online relationship with a man going by the name of Tyler from Kansas within the past several months. Tyler sent Bremer a photograph of another young male purporting the photograph to be of himself. Tyler also convinced Bremer that he was a millionaire. This practice of assuming a fake identity to engage in online relationships is a practice commonly referred to as catfishing. The investigation further established that, unbeknownst to Bremer at the time, Tyler is actually 21-year-old Darren Shill Miller of New Salisbury, Indiana. He's just this piece of shit guy who lives in his mother's basement. Look at him. He looks just like Keegan Kline. He was nobody. Jobless, didn't have any friends. But on the internet, he could be a millionaire and all his psychotic fantasies could be made a reality. So don't underestimate these people that you meet online. Ever. He does not look like the young man he portrayed himself to look like. He is not a millionaire and he lives in Indiana. Interviews and recovered cell phone evidence reveals that during the course of Shill Miller and Bremer's relationship, and several weeks before Hoffman's murder, the two began discussing a plan to rape and murder someone in Alaska. Shill Miller offered Bremer $9 or more million to carry out the murder and to have photographs and or videos of the murder sent to him. Bremer agreed to commit a murder for him. Statements from all 6 defendants indicate that Bremer then solicited 4 friends, including 19-year-old Caleb Leland, 16-year-old Caden McIntosh, and 2 other juveniles to assist her in planning and carrying out the murder of Shill Miller's direction. Statements and cell phone evidence further indicate that at some point during May 2019 or early June 2019, the group assembled and discussed a plan to carry out the murder. The defendants stated that they agreed that each member of the group would receive substantial shares of the money for their part of the planning and execution of the murder. Cynthia Hoffman, who was allegedly best friends with Bremer, was selected by the group as the murder victim. Caleb Leland provided Bremer and McIntosh his vehicle to pick up Hoffman on June 2nd, 2019, and carry out the murder. According to multiple statements and other corroborating physical evidence, Bremer drove McIntosh and Hoffman out to Thunderbird Falls under the guise of going on a hike. Does this all sound familiar to you guys? It's almost as if I'm reading the part that we don't know about the Delphi case. Under the guise of going on a hike on June 2nd, 2019, the 3 of them went off trail and followed a path along the bank of the Eklutna River. I might be mispronouncing that. Eklutna River. The group stopped at a clearing and Hoffman's hands and feet were bound with duct tape. Duct tape was also wrapped around her head, covering her mouth. Hoffman was shot 1 time in the back of the head by McIntosh with Bremer's gun. Her body was then put into the Eklutna River. So they conducted this on a trail right next to a river. Digital evidence and statements show Bremer was communicating with and sending videos and or photographs of the events surrounding the incident to Shill Miller at his directive throughout the duration of the event. So they're conducting a snuff event. That's what I've seen it referred to when dealing with the dark web. So it's not a snuff film, it's an actual event. Now, Shill Miller was most likely planning to upload this possibly to the dark web, right? There was no indication at this time that Hoffman was sexually assaulted. After the murder, some of Hoffman's clothing, her cell phone, and her bag purse were destroyed by McIntosh and Bremer. Digital evidence shows Bremer texted Hoffman's family indicating Hoffman had been dropped off at Polar Bear Park in Anchorage. Bremer also deleted her conversations with Shill Miller from her cell phone. On June 4th, 2019, Bremer and McIntosh were interviewed at the Anchorage Police Department. McIntosh was arrested for murder in the first degree after confessing to shooting Hoffman in the head. Bremer admitted McIntosh shot Hoffman in the head and initially denied having any prior knowledge that the homicide was going to occur, stating McIntosh took the gun from her hand. After further investigation, including a Snapchat video in which Bremer appears to confess, Bremer was re-interviewed by detectives at the Anchorage Police Department on June 7, 2019. Bremer ultimately admitted to being solicited by Shill Miller to commit the murder and that the murder was planned once she realized she had been catfished by Shill Miller. On June 8, 2019, detectives interviewed Caleb Leland. Leland admitted to knowing that Tyler had offered to give Bremer $9 million to kill Hoffman. He further admitted they all agreed Hoffman would be the victim, and he lent his car to Hoffman after being told they were going to pick up Hoffman and kill her. Leland indicated he was going to receive $500,000 for his role. Shill Miller was contacted by federal agents and Indiana State Police on June 9th, 2019. He admitted to being Tyler, the catfishing angel. He told police he knew Hoffman was best friends with Bremer. He further admitted to telling Bremer to kill Hoffman and that he and Bremer have been planning a murder for 3 weeks. Shill Miller stated that he chose Hoffman as the victim. He chose Hoffman. Now, why did he do it? He informed investigators that Bremer had been communicating with him throughout the murder and was sending him Snapchat photographs and videos of Hoffman tied up and on the body afterward, right? Leaked crime scene photos were out there of the Delphi murders way before any leak from the defense team, right? And anybody that's out there who's seen both, I haven't seen any of them, but they'll tell you that they are different. There are 2 different leaks. Sending him Snapchat photographs and videos of Hoffman tied up and of the body afterward, right? Body, that's what was most likely leaked or screenshotted from the dark web. He admitted to convincing Bremer that he was a millionaire and that he would pay her millions of dollars to kill Hoffman. Shill Miller further admitted he and Bremer discussed murdering another person after Hoffman, right? The ski mask event, but that the plan was ultimately abandoned. Shill Miller further admitted to attempting to blackmail Bremer after the homicide into raping people. Shill Miller was arrested by federal agents for a different matter and is in custody in Indiana. So the other matter that he was arrested for also involves this lady from Alaska. He convinced her to take photos of her 3-year-old sibling and produce CSAM footage that he could then share with other pedophiles. So I wanted to share this to you guys just to show you that it's not far-fetched. This happened in Indiana and right around the time that the crimes happened. A little after, as a matter of fact. So we'll go to the chat, and I know there's just no possible way that we're going to keep up on the chat. So if you guys can refrain from spamming the chat, that's only going to help your comments get seen. Good to see you, Mustang. Dorian Gray. Logan had an abusive history towards women, lied about breaking parole because he wanted. What does that got to do with anything, dude? Some of you guys have ADD. What's up, Regis? Hey, everyone. Have you ever discussed the possibility that Richard Allen used to work at Chrysler Automotive Factory in Kokomo, Indiana? I've heard that might have been mentioned in Discovery. Yeah, it was. Thank you, Mustang. Julia Burns, welcome in. Good to see you. Even worse that even potential victims endured from these sickos stealing others' photos to do disgusting acts. Yeah, and there was a weird connection between Keegan Kline and Alaska. Do you guys remember that? That's most likely a coincidence, but isn't that strange? Yeah, Kowalski, Vincent Kowalski. I think that's his last name. It's so incredibly violating. Yeah, and he's a cop, so it's like a double whammy for him. Pitbull mom, I just can't wrap my head around people making snuff films and or sick people wanting to watch them. My only question is that the connection between the Stevenson case and Delphi? Is that somebody was kind of quarterbacking it from behind the scenes? Maybe somebody with a lot of money or somebody pretending to have a lot of money. But one thing I do know is that either leaked crime scene photos from the case file were leaked and put up on the dark web, or the killer himself uploaded those photographs. Now we know Richard Allen had a wedding that he had to pay for before the end of 2017. His daughter was married before the year was up. And I don't know how much he contributed to the funeral, but man, you want to talk about financial stress. All within 1 month, you're now responsible for a funeral and a wedding, and you just don't have it? You might feel powerless. Good to see you, Redfoot. Okay. Thank you, Farmer. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like button, go share this video real quick, see if we can get some other folks in here while we're still live. Timmy, good to see you. Cindy, what's up? True Crime Fangirl. TK voicemail, 10 years in Alaska. Yeah, what is that? There's like this connection with Alaska. Thank you, Jari. If you guys need to reach me, there's the email. Yeah, that pissed me off too. Shane says, if this ends up being financially motivated, I'll be stunned and stand corrected. Interesting angle, though. Yeah, and this is just a theory trying to tie everything in. You know, how do we tie in Anthony Shots? How do we tie in Yubo? How do we tie in the Stevenson case? To me, this is the theory that does that. You know, the killer spent time, unnecessary time with the victims, a lot more so in the Stevenson case, but there was a lot of weird things going on. You know, talk about ritual. There was a ritualistic element. They moved things around within the home. They moved the bodies. They left the home and came back. And then they were extremely interested in an individual in Indiana, and they came out. Coy Cox says, and what was that his name? Can't remember his name. I think that was his first name, Coy. He stated that he had nothing to do with them finding Richard Allen. Yeah. It also explains, why are they asking about the Anthony Shots account when they already have the man who created it? Because, you know, it's as if they don't believe he's connected to the murders. But we all know his history with the dark web. And then they hit us with the whole Yubo app. We now know that that's a tool for sickos on the dark web. And if you're watching the Yubo app on some dark website, all you have to do is screen record that. Take screenshots. And the sickest part about it is that there's probably somebody who accesses the dark web, kind of like Daniel Norfleet. Here, let's take a look at him. And they're probably watching right now. And they're probably thinking like, dang, you guys don't know the half. You don't know the half of this. All right. So let me share this part, and then we'll get on with today's topic. So Daniel Norfleet was arrested, and he lives in Delphi not too long ago. I'm going to read this last paragraph here. On the desktop computer, there were over 1,200 notable image files of CSAM and child erotica. There were 2 images specifically that show various female children, approximately 7 to 9 years old, fully nude in different sexual situations. There are 3 additional photos of female children, approximately 4 to 6 years old, fully nude in different sexual situations. Finally, there is a photo of a female child, approximately 12 to 14 years of age, fully nude in a sexual situation. So this is the kind of guy that Keegan would be sharing images with. Here, look what I have. What do you show me what you have? So they're trading. The search history on his device is comparable to that of the laptop, which several searches for child pornography. Additionally, this device was used to access a peer-to-peer file sharing network called Errors, which is just like the Dropbox. There are 18 search keywords documented, which only 2 different terms were searched. Those terms were PTHC and bestiality PTHC, which was also found on Keegan Klein's devices, which means that Mr. Norfleet was searching for preteen hardcore and preteen hardcore bestiality content. I mean, we are talking anybody searching for that shit, I think could be capable of murder easily. Right? There are also 10 different the onion router URLs, which is the dark web. That's how you access the dark web. Which is an internet browser used to access the dark web and is known to be utilized due to its levels of anonymity. And I'm sure you guys are all remember Keegan Klein's search history, so we're not going to pull that up. Oh shit, I opened up the wrong thing. So I want to pull up a page from Rex Heuermann's probable cause affidavit so you guys can get an idea of the searches that I'm talking about. Chubby 10-year-old girl. Chubby 10-year-old girl crying. 13-year-old schoolgirl. See, it's this kind of shit that Keegan could be responsible for putting her on the radar, right? He's posting her image and her profile for all these sick serial killers to be able to target her. Now, I'm not sure if that's what's going on in the Delphi case, but I mean, it's just hard to overlook. That's where our investigation led us. There's nothing solid there to prove it, but all of the information that we've heard over the years kind of we can fit all those parts into that puzzle. Thank you, Knockface. I appreciate that. Okay, so we'll open it up another five minutes or so on that topic, and then we'll get started. Yeah, I'm noticing that. You know, that's more of a political topic. Unfortunately, you have half of United States kind of leaning towards that. If you can get them to accept certain things, why not accept that, right? Ideological and psychological subversion. It's a thing. Hey, GP, dealing with a 17-year-old boy telling us he is moving out or moving his girlfriend in. Ooh. That's a toughie. Good to see you, GP. Welcome in, Stephanie. Yeah, this is beyond disgusting, and you guys need to be careful who you deal with online, specifically YouTube. We had a creep who was in all of the discords. He had all of the information, and he definitely had his hands on crime scene photos way before the leak. You guys might know him. I'm not going to mention his name because I'm sure he's like Beetlejuice. You know what I mean? And the reason I kicked him out of my Discord, and remember, my Discord is members only. You become a member, I give you access. That's why it was created. I didn't create it for any other reason but to give them a safe space. Well, he became a member, joined the Discord, and I had to kick him out because he could not stop with the sexual innuendos. He could not stop with the sexual jokes. You can just tell that this guy was a sicko. We'd be talking about Delphi or Evansdale, and he's making it sexual. I gave him a warning. I said, dude, if you do that again, I'm kicking you out. And he thought he could buy me. He's like, well, I showed, I gave you all these photos of the Libby's clothing that without the watermarks. And I dropped all the Ron Logan documents. I said, I don't give a fuck, man. That doesn't give you the right to disrespect these victims. I gave him one warning, and the fucker couldn't even resist. And sure enough, later on, he gets arrested for like beating up his wife or something. And I told the entire crew, I told you, I can see these slithering snakes. I can see them from a mile away. It's that sleuth intuition. And I was 100% right. Well, now I know it's for a fact that son of a bitch was on the dark web, and he probably saw the video, if it exists, of the girls being murdered or of these screenshots, and he definitely had it. He definitely had them. And I think there might be other folks out there that do as well. Good to see you, Lady Monet. Yes. And for whatever reason, Keegan Klein was fixated on that. Chubby 13-year-olds, Rex Hewerman, whatever reason, the whole chubby thing. That's like a thing. So we have to ask, why would Richard Allen be involved in that? We don't know anything about Richard Allen. And if there's some kind of bloody symbol on Libby's tree or those sticks mean anything, he knows why. He knows what they are. It could be him trying to follow instructions, right? If you're going to do it, I need you to do this. This is what I need the crime scene to look like. Send me the photos. He was probably sending video before and after. And you guys can't tell me it's far-fetched. I just showed you the Shill Miller case. And if you go to the dark web series that we did on the Delphi murders, we talked about case after case of this kind of shit happening. Also including the Yubo app. So don't tell me that it's far-fetched. Don't tell me that it doesn't happen. Don't tell me that it's not likely. We have no clue what the motive is here. And once again, I started this live stream out saying that we don't need a motive. All we need is one frustrated psychopath. That's it. All he wants is to gain control of his life again. It could be that simple. But why do we have investigators asking about Anthony Shots when they don't believe he's involved? Why are they talking about the Yubo, which is used on the dark web? And why are they so interested in connecting the Stevenson case, which is equally as strange and is most likely a similar situation? Somebody taking photos, uploading them to the dark web. I mean, we're talking about really dark people here. There's a reason that we're all interested in the Delphi case. It's not morbid curiosity. It's not because we're all problem solvers. It's because we're literally being haunted by Abby and Libby. For what? Because there's an evil component to this that we haven't been able to put our finger on. right? You see in the dark, those dark-hearted folks who are covering this case and who are interested in this case are being called as well. We're not the only ones being called. This is a spiritual battle. I truly believe that. What's up, Boston? Sorry about that. Yeah, you'd be the last person blocked. I'm just on one right now. Okay. Exactly, farmer. Exactly. And to me, that's a telltale sign of who people really are. You know, that dark humor. Unable to read the room type of situation. Hey, Mar R, good to see you. How are you? Olivia says, because at first law enforcement didn't know if Anthony Shots was connected to Delphi. What do you mean? They knew from day one. They knew he was connected. They served a search warrant on Kagan Klein on the 25th when he came back. They would have done it on the 19th or the 20th, 20th or the 21st, but he went to Las Vegas where he was doing something with burner phones and looking up dead children and obsessed with the Delphi case. Yeah, they knew right away. They had him in custody and they told him, like, hey, dude, we're getting ready to release some shit on you. He says, I don't care. I didn't do anything. They said, are you sure? We're going to go public with some things. You better tell us what you know. The next day, he said his friend from Texas was calling him. Who's his friend in Texas? Who was communicating from Texas that told him, hey, man, you're all over fucking news right now? You and the whole Anthony Shots thing and your connection to Delphi. It's all over the news, man. And when they broke the news, they were asking who created it. You know? They knew who created it. So that makes you wonder, what the hell were they asking? Why were they talking about the Yubo app and its connection with Anthony Shots? Inquiring minds want to know. Yep. Amelia says, I agree that this case has a spiritual draw for both good and evil. I pray more now than ever. Yeah. You think that it's, why do you think these folks are here supporting Richard Allen? And I'm about to show you the damning evidence that they have against him. And yet these folks are still supporting him. Why do you think that is? Because the same way you God-fearing folks are attracted to this case and haunted by Libby and Abby, almost as if they're calling. Like you guys are, they're telling us you're missing the point. You need to dig deeper. There is something really evil going on here. I mean, the same thing that's responsible or the motivation for Abby and Libby's death could be the same motive for a lot of these missing children around the United States. And if we could nip that in the bud, we could probably save a whole lot of lives. And we just know that local law enforcement and these investigative teams, they're just not going to dig that deep. They're not going to do it. They're very dismissive, you know. They don't want to hear about your intuition. They don't want to hear about your theories. They don't want to hear about your rabbit holes because they just don't have time for it. It's the sad truth. And they've become very dismissive. I was watching a case where a woman was murdered in her apartment in 1991. And I was reading about this case, and they checked her emails or her voicemails. And they only checked 20 of her voicemails. They're like, oh, we're going to go back to number 20. Well, guess what number the killer left a message on? He was the 21st message. All they had to do was look one more message down the list. They would have had their suspect. They had DNA, they had fingerprints, was an ex-boyfriend who was only listed. He was listed on a sheet of paper with a bunch of other contacts. They checked 20 messages and he was number 21. That's the shit I'm talking about. Julia says, I for sure have a dark sense of humor, but you need to know your audience and filter yourself when necessary. Social cues, man, come on. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we all do, but when you're talking about Abby and Libby, you're not going to make a sexual joke. I don't care how dark your humor is. You're either a sick son of a bitch or you don't do that. You know, making jokes at random about trying to make light of situation. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we're all like that. We're all desensitized to a limit. But when you're talking about Lyric and Elizabeth and the Evansdale case and you have somebody making a sexual joke, something's not quite right there. ST3, what's up? 2 clues for motive: sexual and hiding in plain sight. A physical fantasy and a fantasy he lives out every day. He wakes up a free man, living within the chaos, surrounded by the chaos he created. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why he didn't want to confess, because that all ends, you know. The fantasy's over once he says, yeah, I'm the bridge guy, you know. All these people thought I was this smart, sophisticated, evil genius, you know, but once they find out I'm just this guy who was motivated by whatever, that all goes away. Yeah, I agree with you on that. We've touched on that. Shane says, got to remember way back when investigators asked KK about money and Libby. Yeah, a lot of people dismissed it. And we know that he actually sent her money. He's admitted that. He's clarified that. He didn't say like a whole lot, you know. I think just like enough to go buy lunch or something. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes on this first hour. We'll spend the remainder talking about this, and then we'll get into the unspent bullet. Welcome in, Dawn. Yep, all these children, Abby and Libby, are always in my prayers and thoughts. There is something we are missing. We are. There's something we're missing. A big piece of this. Could be badass, but I don't know if he's ever been, you know, I don't think it was ever necessary for him. But yeah, he could have, maybe even as a teenager. Thank you, Julia. That person wasn't even saying anything funny. It was him gradually putting feelers out there to see if any other sickos were there in the Discord. You're right. And because guess where he went? Right after there, he went to these other YouTubers where they invited him in. And he even gave them my name. And they went around saying I was doxing people and threatening to dox me. Oh, I know your name and your address. Yeah, fuck, you guys are listening right now. Fuck you guys. I see all of you. I see all of you. You guys are no different than him. You might be able to hide it better, but that's why I don't answer your emails. That's why I don't go on your little channels, because I can see you. They can't. I can see you, buddy. I know what you are. Thank you, Peggy. What is your opinion about the CI involved? Could this person be a bad actor as well? What do you mean CI? Confidential informant? I would need to see what you mean by that. David Lowry, what's up? Yeah, my question would be what KK doing to make money that he was sending to these girls? He said something about building websites. If you believe that. He was probably building websites to further his catfishing or something, or just using that as an excuse. Lady Monet, I'm not part of any Discord, just my own. And it's a members only Discord. So if any of you members want to join it, shoot me an email and I will customize a link for you. Yes, Farmer. And you got to have that God-giving discernment to hear these slithering snakes. I mean, you can hear them coming a mile away when you're tuned in. There's red flags all over the place. Shane says the Abby or the Anthony Shots tip line being the same as the Abby and Libby tip line makes a link more possible. I thought I was done with the rabbit holes. I guess not. Yeah, you try to be done with them. You know, you try to push them to the side, but it's like somebody, or it's like you can't. There's a force out there that won't allow it. Heather says, if it turned out it was random, then okay, I'm wrong. But it's really hard to shake. That's where I stand. I don't mind being wrong. You know, I'm not trying to be produce sensationalism. You know, when have you ever seen me like produce clickbait or anything like that? I don't have any. I don't tag every single cold case that's out there or every single true crime case in each one of my descriptions. I don't do that. Kiwi says, I just had a random thought. Maybe the creepy guy was a certain creator's son. Yuck. I agree with that. All right. So we're at the 1 hour mark. I'm going to catch up on the chat and then we'll move on. Badass says, I don't think the police will ever reveal crucial tips. I don't even think they know. Most of the time, they have their head up their ass. I'm done giving investigators and law enforcement more credit than they deserve, right? I'll give them what they need and what they've earned. And I'll even give them a little bit, assuming that there's a lot that we don't know. But we have people that are in prison who are innocent, and we have guilty people here that running around who have been let go or ignored, all because of egos and pride. That tunnel vision. You know, they got tunnel vision on Keegan Kline, or they got tunnel vision on Ron Logan, and they're just ignoring everything. So it doesn't even matter if they have it. I mean, look what happened with the lost tip narrative. If that's true, if that's really what happened. That's what they wanted to keep sealed in that affidavit, was that we fucking suck at our job. We got to keep that sealed. We're going to protect these young witnesses. And we believe others are involved. No, you just want to protect yourselves. And whatever led them to finding that lost tip narrative and getting their hands on that bullet, they're lucky. Or Richard Allen's gun. Whoever brought them Richard Allen, they better get on their knees and thank them. because they weren't going to find it. That's for damn sure. And like I said, I'm not pro defense. I'm not pro prosecution. I'm pro victims and their family and their friends who are suffering. Hey, Rescue. Good to see you. I don't know if it's a confidential informant, David Lowry, but I do believe the whole AutoZone thing has to do with a friend of Richard Allen's daughter and husband. And I can only imagine what she's going through. You know, that's what Richard Allen was feared. That's why he killed Abby and Libby. He's realizing all of his fears. He killed them in vain. He killed them for nothing. Couldn't even keep it. Didn't work, man. You didn't want your daughter to find out? Well, look. Now you got some asshole YouTuber talking about her. You killed them for nothing. Yeah, definitely some kind of a connection. And Richard Allen doesn't have to be on his home computer on the dark web. He can be at work on some kind of burner phone. I told you the story, right, of the girl I used to work with a long time ago. She kept a burner phone at work that her husband and she had a whole family, dude. She was married with two beautiful young kids. Good looking husband. She had everything. But here she is with this separate phone, a burner phone. It's not under her name. She prepaid on cards, loaded them up on there, and she's cheating on her husband. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe how diabolical people could be. Especially when this man came in holding her young baby and holding the hand of another young girl. And she kissed this man and hugged him, and they looked so happy. Later that day, she's on that fucking phone and telling stories about her sexual encounters. I almost threw up in my mouth. You wonder why I have trust issues. So who's to say some sicko can't do the same thing? But instead of cheating on his wife, he's doing this other shit. There's a whole lot of focus with Richard Allen in that phone. You know, he says he was watching stocks. To me, that says his mind was on money. "12 cats." Yeah, we're good. If you go back to the beginning of the stream, I kind of talked about what happened. Thank you, Peggy. It's a fucking snake. If you're trying to be serious and you're talking about the murders of two young girls and somebody's making a sexual joke, that'll tell you something right there about that person. Compulsion. And you were right, Julia. They're putting out their feelers. They want to know who's laughing at the joke. Who thinks it's funny? You know, I like a risque joke. I like to push the limits, but come on. That's something else. Okay, let's see where we're going to start today. Maybe we can start here with the list of the defense evidence. I mean, nothing in here has anything to do with the case against Richard Allen. I have the original leaked Frank's memo too. And all they talk about the bullet is, oh, the chain of custody. We only have 2 photographs of it being in the grass and in the mud and in the leaves. Everything's a conspiracy with this group, with this defense team. It's like, when are they going to do something real for Richard Allen? List of exhibits. Certified mail receipt. Todd Click letter to McClellan, right? Todd Click, he's the guy who thought it was Odinism. Todd Click affidavit. Todd Click letter to McClellan. Todd Click summary attached to McClellan letter. Crime scene autopsy photos. And one mention of DNA documentation. So that gives me hope on the DNA. Confidential photo on the F. We don't know if that's a F. Doesn't even look like an F. They call it an F. Photo of the shoe under Abby's leg. Photo of cell phone under Abby's leg. Photo of the bullet. 3 photos of the bullet in the ground. That's all they have. And the way they word it too is that they don't say that's all we have. They say that's all we found. Right? And these idiots couldn't even find their way through there. They needed help from McClelland. He's like, bro, the shit is there. Go, you can't find it. Like, it's laid out exactly how we have it. I'm not going to do your job for you. Graph showing the depth of Deer Creek. Liggett's autopsy notes. Confidential photo. Photo yellow rope tied to a tree. So I don't know what that's all about. Odinism website. Man hanging upside down from a tree. Oh, so that's why the yellow rope, Well, you need rope, right, if you're going to hang upside down from a tree. So it was obviously, that's the reason the rope's there. Man wearing antlers from an Odinism website. Brad Holder, tree painting with Facebook info. Brad Holder, tree painting, close up. Brad Holder, tree painting, world tree. Like, are you even trying to defend against any of the evidence that's being presented against your client? Daniel Bray, sacrifice and sacrificial ideology in Norse religion. Right? Everything based on the fact that the sticks are runes and the Libby's tree is an F. Which it doesn't even look, none of that even matches. Odin report, 12 pages. Confidential interview report. Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall. Patrick Westfall interview. I think this is an old Westfall address to the Delphi cemetery. Brad Holder, Facebook post of his hand. He wrote a rune on his hand. Side-by-side photo of Holder's hand and Abby. Brad Holder. Bodies in the woods. We saw that. He posted that in like 2014. Looks nothing like the crime scene photo. I don't care what anybody says. Side-by-side photo of Holder's Facebook post and Libby, crime scene. Looks nothing like what we know now of the crime scene. Nothing. They're not defending anything that the prosecution is going to bring into that courtroom. And you guys ask me, why do you think there's going to be a plea deal? This is why. They're trying to play prosecution with clients that aren't even charged. They're not even defending Richard Allen. A confidential report, Winters Boucher. And he's the guy that found the photo of the tree on top of that little girl and that guy. Right? And then they spent $12,000 to go see him for that. Fucking bullshit. Odinism ceremony film by Brad Holder. Look, if those sticks and Libby's tree have anything to do with runes, it's because Richard Allen put them there. And he knows why he did it. Side-by-side photos of sticks forming an F. Well, that's fine. You got sticks forming an F, but that doesn't mean that's what's on the tree. That's not what I see. Look, this is some stupid ass web sleuth bullshit. The Goodfellas meme posted on Facebook with the hearts. Remember? Or if a guy asked me to help him bury a body, basically saying, yeah, I would, Facebook post. Energy and testosterone is through the roof right now. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe it's because he's at the gym. Video, Elvis Fields interview. Elvis photos of brass knuckles. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Photo, single arrowhead. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Elvis, 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 Elvis. Johnny Messer, Johnny Messer. Brad Holder. Like, they're not even addressing one piece of actual evidence. Look at this. Half of this page has to do with Brad Holder's Facebook. They're not ready to defend this guy. What else they got here? Oh, Elvis Fields, Johnny Messer, people that they can't even prove were there that day. Brad Holder has a somewhat good alibi. Well, guess what? We know for a fact Richard Allen was there. How about those apples? Photo from the crime scene, antlers. Well, according to Fig Solves, who've seen the photos, they're not antlers. And Elvis Fields never said anything about antlers. He says, I put horns. Right? But the sticks don't look like horns. They would have to be antlers. But he's right. He got it wrong. He meant antlers. So it's all around this Odinism stuff. And you can't even be sure that those are runes. I mean, they might be. I don't fucking know. We've been looking at runes ever since, and I can't find one that matches. I mean, you have to look at the lengths that people have to go. Oh, well, if you do this and you do that and you consider that, it's like, oh my God. Like, you're going to ignore the one solid piece of information, which is the unspent bullet that ties him to the crime scene. And you're going to go with this bullshit? I'm sorry, guys. They failed their client. It's not that they failed their client. There's nothing there. There is absolutely nothing there. And people who will sit there and try to tell you that that unspent bullet, oh, some states don't use that information. That's all bullshit. In some cases, they don't allow it, but they have their own reasons for that. So I think we can start here with this was an interesting little video. And then we're going to look at the Murdoch case. They used similar markings against Murdoch. So I think it's important that we talk about that. So they use forensic markings to prove that the gun that was used to kill his wife and son. They couldn't find the gun. I don't know. Did they ever find the gun? But they knew that it was the same gun that was used out on the range, and they were able to prove which weapon was used. With tool markings. There's no audio on this, so don't panic. Okay, when a bullet is fired from a semi-automatic handgun, the gun leaves distinctive markings on the cartridge case. So on the back and on the side, which can be used to match the case to the gun from which it was fired. These marks are created by 4 parts: the firing pin, breech face, extractor, and ejector. Each part has the potential to leave distinctive microscopic marks on the fired case. When the trigger is pulled, the firing pin springs forward and makes contact with the primer. That didn't happen in this case, igniting the gunpowder and propelling the bullet through the barrel. The contact leaves a small hemispherical mark near the center of the case. As the expanding gas propels the bullet out of the barrel, the case is pushed backward into the breech face. Creates an impression of the breech face on the rear of the case. And I don't think that's what we're dealing with in the Delphi case. This is what we're dealing with. The backward force also pushes the slide backwards. As this happens, the extractor pulls on the case. So you have extractor and the ejector marks that they will be looking at, leaving a grip impression on the side. So ejector and extractor marks is what we'll be dealing with in the Delphi case. As the slide nears the end of its movement, the case makes contact with the ejector, causing the case to flip up and out of the slide. This leaves a small mark on the bottom left of the case. Together, these marks can be used to match a cartridge case to a particular handgun. Okay, so let's go look at the Murdoch case here for a moment.
The latest in the Murdoch murder trial. Today, Paul Greer, a SLED firearm examiner and ballistics expert, took the stand. His testimony included his examination of guns to shell casings, all found on the Murdoch's Moselle property. Tara Jabor is live now outside the Colleton County Courthouse. And Tara, what conclusion did Greer come to about all of this evidence?
Katie, Greer came to a big conclusion. He says that markings on shell casings found outside of Maggie Murdoch's body match markings on shell casings found at two other places on the Murdoch's Moselle property. Now, one of those places is outside of the gun room at their residence on Moselle. The other is at the Murdoch shooting range. Greer told the jury through the long process he goes through to test these bullets in cases and how he tests them and fires them through weapons. When ammo is run through a gun, it picks up markings on metal that are unique to an individual gun, much like a fingerprint. Greer testified that those markings from locations around the property match the ones around Maggie's body, all from a particular .300 Blackout AR-15 rifle.
Based on my examination, it was determined that items 2 through 7, 35 through 37, and 39 had matching mechanism marks, and it was concluded that those items had been loaded into, extracted, and ejected from the same firearm at some previous time.
So if I understand it correctly, the items collected right by Maggie had been loaded into, extracted to, and ejected by the same firearm that were identified that items were picked up by the side of the house.
Yes, sir, that is correct. It was determined that those items, and to include items 108, 113, 116, 117, and 122, also had those same matching mechanism marks to conclude that they had been loaded into, extracted, and ejected from the same firearm as those at the crime scene around Margaret Murdoch's body and those several recovered from the home.
You're not here to tell this jury that any of the weapons in this room were used, in your opinion, to murder Maggie or Paul, correct?
Based on my examination of the evidence, I was able to identify that there were matching mechanism marks in items around, as mentioned, the body of Maggie Murdoch and other areas of the property.
The state argues that rifle is the murder weapon that killed Maggie Murdoch. They say it was the rifle Maggie purchased in 2018 for Paul Murdoch after he lost his other rifle. Now, earlier this week, we heard from Paul Murdoch's old friend, Will Loving. He says he remembers shooting an AR-15 rifle that was Paul's outside the gun room just a few months before the murders. The defense says that rifle the state is looking for is not accounted for. They also argue that since AR-15s are mass-produced, they could create similar markings. Now, earlier today, we heard from Tony Satterfield. His mother, Gloria Satterfield, was a housekeeper for the Murdochs for over 20 years, and she passed away at the Moselle residence in 2018. Coming up tonight at 6, our investigative reporter, Ann Emerson, will tell us what he says about his
So yeah, this evidence is what will convict Richard Allen. And if they throw out the Odinism stuff, what does the defense team have? They don't have an answer for this. Here, let's pull up the Frank's memo here. It says here, it should be noted that as of the date of this memo, the defense has no photographs of the bullet allegedly found between the girls after it was removed from the ground. So another conspiracy theory, right? Law enforcement, they swapped out the bullet, because they wanted Tony Leggett to become sheriff. They risked it all. No photo or video, for example, shows the bullet as it was being pulled out of the ground. No photo or video of the bullet immediately after it was pulled from the ground. No video or photograph of all sides of the bullet, blah, 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 blah. And that's all they talk about. They have no answer for it. They can't use their expert because the expert agrees with the prosecutor. And we'll play this this doozy of an interview by Scremin. And we've played it multiple times here. We'll play it again.
Analysis of the bullet that was found near the victim's bodies.
So the bullet, though, was not a spent bullet, correct?
That's my understanding from the probable cause. Yes, it was not fired.
Okay, not fired. So how do you do forensic analysis on a not fired bullet?
Well, there's two different ways of conducting that type of analysis. If a bullet is fired out of a gun, then you can conduct an analysis on the projectile itself as it twists and comes out of a barrel. There may be different nicks and scrapes and things on the bullet. But any bullet casing that's been ejected out of a semi-automatic handgun, whether that gun has been fired or not, it is pushed into the bottom part of the barrel, and then when the slide is racked and the bullet's ejected, even if it hasn't been fired, there's still an extractor that grabs the edge of that bullet, that flips it out, and that process often, not always, but often leaves marks and dents, and those marks and dents can be very specific to the weapon that it came out of. So even if it hasn't been fired, in a laboratory, they can go back, put a similar type of shell casing in it in a laboratory environment, eject that round, and then compare the two.
Boom. All right, we're going to open it up for discussion, but I want to go to this comment here by Miss Smalla. If they have recorded admissions of timelines that put Richard Allen seeing the other group of girls, what about his confessions, you guys? To me, this guy was eating his feces and drinking from the toilet to make himself seem like he was incompetent and couldn't stand trial. I think somebody like that is going to confess, but he's going to make it seem as if he's crazy and being forced to confess, right? I didn't shoot those girls. So he's making the confession sound like he's confessing under duress, but he doesn't quite know the facts, right? You see, I'm confessing to the crime, but I'm getting it wrong. So with the timeline and the fact that his bullet is going to match, or the unspent bullet matches his gun scientifically, and even the defense's experts agree with that, this dude, he has to plead. If they're going to offer him one, they may not offer him a plea deal. But because of time, I want to give you guys about 10 minutes to open up the discussion. And I know I skipped over a lot, and I do apologize. But if I missed your question, let's go ahead and ask it again. Good to see you, CJK. This is science. Unique markings match to that gun. We have a gun engineer with the gun manufacturing in my hub's family. He also said they leave identifying marks. Absolutely. Anything made from metal is going to leave an identifying mark on a microscopic level. There's just no way you can make anything with metal that fills in every tiny little gap. You know, it's not going to be 100% smooth. Just doesn't work that way. Because of the way you have to cut metal, the way you have to mold it. There's just no way to get it 100% precise. Yeah, and this, in my opinion, also, Shane, this is the minimum, and it's more than enough to put him away for life. And I had a whole big article here I wanted to read. Maybe we can read the first part of it. It's called "Catching Killers by Matching Tiny Marks on Bullets," and I think it was from the New York Times. Philadelphia. In a series of brazen attacks a few summers back, a man known as the Ruthless Robber stole money from his victims and then opened fire on them, leaving little behind but wounded bodies and ejected shell casings. The police did not know when the emboldened man might strike again, but a week after the fourth robbery, a 9mm Glock handgun discovered during an unrelated traffic stop was matched to the spent bullets through a federal ballistics database, leading detectives straight to Amin Akridge. This case would likely have gone unsolved if not for the bullet match, said Jason Greenow, an assistant district attorney in Philadelphia. He successfully prosecuted Mr. Akridge last year for the 2015 robberies and shootings, which injured 4 people, including a man who tried to intervene and is now paralyzed from the waist down, all with extractor marks. The only reason Richard Allen is in custody right now is because of his own mouth saying that he was there that day, and the fact that they found extractor marks matching the bullet found at the crime scene that matched his gun. That's it. That's all they need. And if the defense team had anything against him, they don't need any confessions. All those confessions, there's a reason why Richard Allen's confessing so much. He's trying to make it appear as if he's giving a false confession. And even a guilty man can be coerced into giving a false confession. But I think it's all fake. It's all phony. Oh, I'm confessing. Let me go ahead and give you false information. That way it appears like I'm being forced into it, but not really giving an accurate account of what really happened. CJK says, didn't they find DNA from Elvis? No. No, not at all. Not even close. This guy that they say has a 8-year-old's IQ or whatever they want to say, that he's special needs, asked a question: if I spit on one of the girls and I could explain it away, would I be in trouble? He's trying to ask a smart question, but you have to consider the source. And the only reason these Richard Allen defenders use that kind of shit is because they support Richard Allen. The way we're being called by Abby and Libby, they're being called by the devil, pretty much. That's what they're being called for. This is a spiritual battle. That's it. You have to pick your side. I'm sorry. We've had multiple experts saying that bullet came from Richard Allen's gun. And the reason he got arrested that day was because he told Jerry Holman, it never left my sight. So forget the confessions. Forget everything. They don't need any of that. And they probably have more. They probably have a lot more. And they don't even need it. Especially when Richard Allen's own defense team isn't even defending him. They're playing prosecutor with the third-party suspects that they can't even prove were there that day. What's up, D? Good to see you. Yep, I hear you, Linda. Yeah, possibly animal hair, Stephanie. What were they digging for? Neighbor says they had some kind of items, maybe metal detectors. Maybe they were looking for the dead cat. There's some things that we don't know about. Yep, they will still match. Andy, welcome in, by the way. Amelia says, what scares me is that I believe what he actually did do, he considers worse than murder and sexual assault. In my opinion, he confessed to save his reputation because the role was even worse. Yeah, that's possible. It could be much worse. And if he is a true psychopath, he's dangling carrots, right? It's a cat and mouse game. He just wants control. And if law enforcement doesn't know everything, the only source of that information would be Richard Allen, right? If he's the killer. And he's toying with them. Gilletta 1, in my opinion, there's been several victims in Indiana, but most victims have never been found and will remain forever missing. David Lowry, right, they didn't find DNA from Elvis, and I'm not defending Allen in any way. I believe he is the killer and BG. Just weird how a guy would walk back to the cop car and ask them that question. Well, what's weird is that you're leaning on it. You know what I mean? You're not looking at it through like an investigative lens. You're just like, oh man, he must be involved. And you always got to consider the source. Where does that information come from? Comes from the defense team. These are the same guys who said Patrick Westfall was rubbing something on a tree. Come to find out, he was only wedging an item into the bark high enough where nobody else could reach it. These are the same guys who said that Brad Holder, they spent $12,000 to go meet this Bobby Boucher guy. $12,000 they spent to go visit this guy to discuss a photo that was put on Brad Holder's Facebook in 2014, 2012 that doesn't look anything like the crime scene. Yet they'll tell you in the leaked Franks memo that it does. Everything is a lie. It's a lie after lie after lie after lie. And at some point you got to ask, why are they lying like this? Why are they choosing these conspiracy theories? Why are they not addressing any of the real information, like the timeline? Where's Richard Allen's alibi? They don't talk about the Hoosier Harvest Store video. They don't bring up any of that stuff. That is what's going to sink Richard Allen. He is fucked 100%. So for anybody who's supporting Richard Allen and ignoring the smokeless smoking gun, we know why you are. We know why you're supporting this man. And we know why we're supporting Abby and Libby, her family, and her friends who are suffering through this. We know why you're here, and we know why we're here. And the line has been drawn. And on that note, guys, I do got to get out of here. So if you are part of the replay crew, please drop a comment, like, and share this video. And if there's any follow-ups, you guys can always hit me up directly at sleuthintuition.com. I'll see you guys again real soon. Take care of yourselves.